Big news today in the world of LNG. The Power of Siberia 2 pipeline was announced, the deal between China and Russia. It is an enormous pipeline, and there are two other pipelines feeding gas into China from Russia that will also see some incremental increases. Just give those to you. 50 billion cubic meters a year. That's the Power of Siberia 2. Then there'll be another 2 billion cubic meters out of the Far East pipeline and another 6 from the original Power of Siberia. So if you round it up, call it 58 to 60 billion cubic meters a year, that's a lot. I mean, that's roughly 10% of current gas consumption. Now, let's talk about some reactions to this. The first one is from Seb Kennedy, who is the author of the Energy Flex newsletter. And here's what he had to say. Power of Two Siberia remains stuck where it has been for 2 decades. In the world of MOUs, Memorandums of Understanding, feasibility studies, and presidential handshakes. There is still no gas sales agreement, no firm construction timeline, and no sign of commercial terms that would make the project bankable. So maybe this is more smoke and mirrors. Maybe this is more geopolitical posturing. The U.S. is, the world's largest LNG exporter. And so maybe this is designed to create some concern amongst the Trump administration. Don't know. Or it could be sincere and the parties are finally about to embark on this project. Here is what Anne-Sophie Corbeau, former head of BP's gas division and now the global research scholar at the Center on Global Energy Policy at Columbia University. I've been interviewing her for a couple of years now, and I wrote her an email in April, asked her to comment on roughly this topic, and here's what she said in return. She said, I think the big mistake that everyone is making is thinking that Chinese future LNG demand is one of very precise quantity over the future. I disagree, she said. It could end up being much lower. First, there is considerable uncertainty regarding Chinese gas demand. In particular, gas demand in the power sector, which depends on coal, nuclear, and renewables. Now, here's an important point. China has the largest power grid in the world and enormous, wind and solar and hydro and nuclear, only 3% gas. And that's all it's interested in. The system, the way it's evolving, it's going to be mostly wind and solar. It's going to have some hydro and some nuclear. China's goal by 2050, 2060, is for that to provide 100% of power generation at any given time. But there will always be weather and other considerations. And so the coal power fleet, high efficiency coal power fleets, will be there as backup. So, and why? Because China has lots of coal and it has lots of gas, but it has other uses for it too. So it doesn't want to use it in the power sector. So all this nonsense you hear in Canada about, if we could only export our clean gas to China, it would displace coal in the power sector. No, it won't. They don't want it. So a little background. Seb Kennedy goes on to say, meanwhile, China may focus, this is Anne-Sophie Corbeau. Meanwhile, China may focus on developing other sources of supply to meet this demand, including domestic gas, the world's 5th largest producer, and even Power of Siberia 2 seems to be back. And, she wrote that in April, and here we are. Now it appears to be back. So there's still lots of skepticism, and I think the takeaway for this is uncertainty. Now we see Canada's Natural Resources Minister, Tim Hodgson, and Prime Minister Mark Carney talking about uncertainties. There will be demand in Europe. There will be contracts. There will be... Nobody thinks that. there's a very uncertain time, and I want to give you some context for that. Okay, some numbers. So global LNG production next year is going to be 560 billion cubic meters, and all of the numbers I give you from now will be in billion cubic meters. 630 in 2027. And so basically, we've got by 2030, we're going to be in a position where there will be 910, 925 billion cubic meters of demand globally and about 700 of LNG capacity. So if you've already got 300 and some odd billion cubic meters of natural gas, pipeline gas, and you add you've got about 160 billion cubic meters of surplus capacity. Now, this isn't like a gas well or something. Uh, those liquefaction plants, some of them will just stop operating. They'll cease operations till the market conditions improve. And, that could be the IEA says that the glut, the oversupply, this unused capacity, will persist out till 2040 or even into the 2040s. So we've got lots of supply coming on in the next couple of years. Maybe I think it's in the neighborhood of 300 billion cubic meters. So lots of new supply, most of it out of Qatar and the USA. We've got lots of pipeline gas and perhaps the Power of Siberia too. And there's little Canada, a marginal supplier at best, thinking it's going to be an energy superpower and it's going to take on the world and, export to Asia and export to Europe and so on and so forth. Maybe it will. Maybe, the market will develop and supplies will develop in such a way that there is an opportunity. But for crying out loud, Minister Hodgson and Prime Minister Carney, stop talking with certainty. The global market for this, for LNG and gas in general, is highly, highly uncertain. So there's two things that we need two big questions that you need to track as we go forward to 2030. First one, does pipeline gas from Russia or elsewhere displace LNG in China? And you could ask the same question of some other Asian or global South countries that may want to take pipeline gas, because this is not the only Russia is not the only source of pipeline gas. It could be exported to other countries. Number two, does electrification in China, Asia, and Europe displace both pipeline gas and LNG? Now, this is really important, and I raised this in a video on the weekend. There is in Asia, China has this for sure, Malaysia has it, other countries have versions of it, policies and strategy to displace fossil fuel imports, primarily oil and gas, with electricity. So if you expand the power sector and then you electrify transportation with EVs and you space heating and cooling with heat pumps, and same thing for industrial processes. They don't want to pay to import expensive LNG or oil. So these are two big questions. Will there be an increase in pipeline gas to China or elsewhere? And what about electrification? Huge error bars here and uncertainties. Keep that in mind. And next time somebody says, oh, yeah, there's going to be LNG demanded. No, we don't know that for sure. That's a big, big question mark.